Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners work session for this Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. It's 2:01 p.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. In the boardroom, we have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Carolina Mejia, as well as our County Manager, Amiro Chavez. We have through Zoom key members of our Community Planning Economic Development team, including Director Josh Cummings, Chris Chapeau, and Andy DeFobis. The topic today is conservation futures applications. Public can follow along on our live stream on our county YouTube channel. We have an hour slated for this topic. Here's Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell joining in. And so I will start with the County Manager and we can move from there.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. This is a yearly event in a way. As a matter of background, the board made a decision maybe a couple of years ago to set aside $500,000 from conservation futures every year for you to consider grants from the community related to this particular funding source. The other remaining revenues from this funding source goes to support the Habitat Conservation Plan, the HCP. So what you will hear today is proposed grants for your consideration for the 2021 year related to conservation future grants. With that in mind, you have a PowerPoint presentation on your packet. Who's going to be taking the lead from Josh?
I'll jump in real quick. Thank you, County Manager, for that opening. I wanted to pop on here just for a minute to say thank you to the Board of County Commissioners. Conservation Futures is an important program for our community. It's impactful in the way that it helps preserve land and participates with the leadership of what the county is trying to accomplish in the strategic plan. I also wanted to say thank you to Andy DeFobis, who's on this call. Andrew. The good work that he's done over the past few years in creating a streamlined process to involve the community in the ranking of the projects that come in, and then being transparent with the board on what those projects are and how the ranking committee got to those decisions. We want to make sure that the money that's being spent on the taxpayers' behalf is appropriately processed and that there's transparency and community involvement. So thank you to the board. Thank you to Andy for your good work. I know Andy will walk you through this, and I'll let him get going. I'm going to go off camera.
All right, see you, Josh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Andrew DeFobis, Interim Senior Planner with Community Planning. So I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing my screen and a PowerPoint presentation. Oops, hang on. Okay, hopefully you are looking at a PowerPoint. One sec. There we go. How's that?
Can you put it on the slide mode? I think you have on presenters mode.
Oh. Okay, do I need to take it out of presenters mode?
I believe so.
Okay, hang on.
Andy, just switch the sides.
Switch the,
Yeah.
What do you mean switch the sides? Sorry.
Your notes in presenter mode.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Chris, I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying there. Hang on. Let me back out of here. I may have to, I can create a PDF and do that really quick here and try to share that.
No, you can just go ahead. I think we can see the slides the way you had it.
Okay, shoot, hang on a sec. Okay, well, I apologize. All right. Sorry? All right, how's that?
On point, perfect.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, everybody. Apparently 18 months of this is not enough to have this down pat, so my apologies. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about an overview of the Conservation Futures Program and discuss the 2021 applications we received. So this program, as Josh and Ramiro have laid out, is a land preservation program for protecting open space, timberlands, fish and wildlife habitat, and agricultural and recreational properties. Authorization for the program comes from RCW 8434 from the legislature. The county collects a tax levy to fund the purchase of conservation properties or to fund conservation easements on these properties. In 2021, the rate paid by Thurston County taxpayers is approximately 4 cents per $1,000 assessed value. And the board has authorized $500,000 for annual projects and an additional $500,000 a year to be set aside for mitigation purchases for the county's habitat conservation plan. So the way that
can I ask you a question, Andy, real quick?
Yes.
I guess I've been confused a little bit, and it came up in a discussion we had on the other side of the coin about the 500,000. Like the property, the board arrived at those numbers based on where the property tax had been coming in, but that changes over time and can increase. So I'm just wondering, like, if that number increases, does more money go to the community grants, or does more money go to the set aside for the habitat conservation plan acquisition, or does it go into the maintenance and operation piece? There's sort of like three buckets of where this money goes, and I'm just wondering, like, if it's more than 1.4 million, how does that money get allocated? Half and half, or it all goes into one bucket? I'm not sure how we structured that.
So I'm gonna jump in and say that is up to the board. If there's money sitting in the Conservation Future Funds, and you may recall that's one of the financial plans that you reviewed in the budget presentations, it is up to the board how you would like to spend those dollars. So CPED does not necessarily bring that forward. That's for the board to decide.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Okay, so an overview of how the annual grant program process works. We collect applications every year, typically by March 1st, although this year we did extend that to, I believe, to April 30th to encourage more robust participation in the program. Applications must be sponsored by an eligible entity, such as a city government or a land trust. The applicants make their presentation to a ranking committee, which is made up of advisory board members and technical experts. And then those folks will rank projects based on those applications and the presentations, and then make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. And the board would then select which projects to fund. So this year, like last year, that process, the ranking committee and all of the presentations was virtual given the COVID-19 pandemic. And I did add a slide in here that shows you the makeup of the ranking committee. So I'll get this updated PowerPoint to you all, but this shows you the makeup of folks that are on the ranking committee for Conservation Futures. There are 3 county advisory committees: the Agricultural Advisory Committee, the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board, and the Historic Commission. We seek parks representation from other jurisdictions because the county no longer has a parks board. This year, that was the city of Yelm. We've got a real estate agent on that committee, and then representatives from several different agencies: Thurston Conservation District, Washington Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, Washington Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Do we have that list in front of us here?
He said he was going to be updated.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, it's in the briefing. It's an attachment. I added this slide this morning, and I'll make sure you get the updated presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So some statistics. Since 1990, which was when the program was first put in place, we have funded the county have funded 48 projects. That represents an award of over $19 million with 5,500 acres conserved, either in acquisition or with conservation easements. And in addition to that, there are a few projects in the pipeline that have been awarded by the board, but they've not yet been completed. And those represent an additional $700,000 in funds and 180 acres of land. Oops. So the ranking criteria, these are the criteria that the program currently uses, and these criteria are at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners. So the things that the ranking committee is looking at is how well does the project fit the objectives of the Conservation Futures program? Is there a degree of time sensitivity to it? It's a time sensitive opportunity. And then what sort of features would the site preserve? Critical habitat for wildlife. This year, the board asked for a salmon recovery component. So that was in the ranking materials this year. We look at, does it have historical or cultural significance or agricultural or forestry potential on the property? They're looking to see what's the certainty the project would succeed based on the information provided by the applicant, what level of match is being brought to the project, financial match or otherwise, and does the project include public access? Public access is not a required component, but if there is public access, it does increase the points that are available. Oops. So in 2021, we had two projects sponsored both by land trusts, and they were properties. One was in the Chehalis Basin, and another is adjacent to Bud Bay and Olympia. Between these projects, they represent salmon recovery opportunity, riparian and other types of habitat, and recreational and educational components as well. Combined, the projects represent 30 acres of land and a total fund request of just under $250,000. So this is a map of where they're generally oriented in the county. We've got one project that's down in the Chehalis Basin here along the Black River, and another property that is up here in Olympia. So the first project is the West Bay Woods project, which was sponsored by the Olympia Coalition for Ecosystems Preservation. This would be a 1.6 acre acquisition and a funding request of $220,500. This property, if purchased, would allow connections to the already protected areas of West Bay Woods and down through West Bay Park in Olympia. The properties represent part of the West Bay Creek drainage and feature wetlands and streams, and also mature second growth forest that provides wildlife habitat, including for the great blue heron. So these are some photographs of the property. If you're looking at the one in the upper left and you see the orange blocks, the block that's labeled A right here, these are the four properties that are, the four parcels that are part of this proposal. And you can see how it compares to other areas that they have preserved or otherwise are involved with. On the right is a trail system enabled by the proposed acquisitions that again would come through the four subject properties right here. And then along the bottom, an assortment of photographs from the application and the presentations. Once again, we didn't go out and do site visits, so relying on materials provided by the applicants to represent these properties. The second project is the Seiler Conservation Easement, which was sponsored by the Chehalis River Basin Land Trust. This would be a 28.3 acre conservation easement and a funding request of $28,000. The property contains second growth forest habitat and also riparian and salmonid habitat. It is adjacent to other properties that have been protected by other entities and is the site of both a completed and a future fish barrier removal project. So here are some photographs of this property from the application. It gives you a good aerial look, also points out where some of those fish passage projects have happened or are proposed to happen. And again, just other applications or other photographs from the application. So this is the ranking summary from the ranking committee. They ranked the West Bay Woods project as the top project. So essentially the order I presented them was the order in which they were ranked by the ranking committee. Pretty short meeting. There were only two projects. And again, that total combined fund request for both was $248,500. Some options that were discussed by the ranking committee for funding. The first option here was the preferred option of the ranking committee. It was really the only one they discussed to fund both projects. Of course, the board would have other options as well, which would be, to fund one but not the other, or to not fund projects. The funding is at the board's discretion. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions or take any direction from the board as to how to proceed with these projects. If the board chooses to award funding, staff will circulate award letters for board signature.
I have a couple of questions.
I just,
Oh, go ahead, I didn't know if you did.
so, just for my clarification, so there's 500,000 that's allotted by the BoCC every year, and, so, is this normal for there to be just like 2 applicants? Are there more some years? Are there less? How does
Yeah.
that usually work?
This is the first time in my recollection, 7 years of working on this program, that we have had less ask than we have money available. Usually it's the other way around. And we did extend I think we had 3 or, as of the official deadline, and, we extended it, and I reached out specifically to folks who had applied in the past, and everyone who wanted to apply did so. And then we even had one that was withdrawn. So we ended up with just 2 projects, but no, that is not typical.
Okay.
Yeah, elaborating on that I was very surprised to only see in the past, the board has had robust discussions on how to award the grants. In this case, yeah, 2 applications under the threshold of money.
Wow.
Commissioner.
What, on that topic, a follow-up, I mean, I think you said it, Andy, but we didn't fund some things last year, and they weren't interested in reapplying? The same ones that didn't get funded last year?
I think so. The West Bay Woods project, they did apply last year. So this does represent that is a reapplication. That did not. There were other projects that ranked higher last year, and the board did not choose to fund that project last year. So they did reapply. The Seiler conservation easement is a brand new application, and that's the first one we've seen from the Chehalis River Basin Land Trust.
Commissioner Edwards.
Why is part of this information marked draft?
Can you tell me what you're referring to?
Conservation agreement between Thurston County and Olympic Coalition for Ecosystems Preservation.
So as part of their application, the Olympia Coalition, they were showing, they were answering the question of how the property would be protected by saying, we will be entering into a conservation agreement with the county, and they provided a draft of what that might look like. So that's their materials that they sent in as part of the application. If the board were to fund this project, staff would work with them to create a conservation agreement and bring that back to the board. And of course, the final version circulated for your approval would not be drafted at that point.
I mean, I've got nothing against either of the requests. I was just wondering. And then you're going to send us a list of who's on the ranking committee, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as part of your briefing materials, there is an attachment that has the names of the folks who represented those different entities, and also short biographies about them if they chose to submit those. So that material's there, but I will also circulate the PowerPoint that I've just provided, because it did add a slide that actually showed the ranking committee.
Yeah, I think I saw that, yeah. So then my final question would be, Andy, why wouldn't we want to do this?
I think that's a great question, and I'm not going to advocate for either project, but I will say that one thing that the ranking committee talked about, they noted that this funding request is less than the total amount available, but their sentiment was that both projects were worthy of the funding.
Okay, I'm good.
Making it easy on us, Randy. All right. Well, I think the board,
Oh, we got another question.
yeah.
Can you stop sharing your screen, Andy, please?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't see that small.
Apologies. Yes.
There we go.
Okay, my next
That helps.
question is, so it seems like we'll have 250,000 left over. Does that carry over onto next year?
Mhm.
So next year, the award total will be 750,000?
Yeah, that's an option for the board, absolutely.
It's up to the board what we do with the extra money.
Oh, okay.
I
And
think
we've
I would,
taken more in the past to cover something that was just a little more than what the proposal had, so it's went
Gives us
both
some
ways.
stretching room.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I would defer to Robin, but my understanding is that it remains in the account and is available for future use at the board's discretion.
That's exactly right.
What's nice is the projects, as you can imagine, they very rarely add up to exactly $500,000. Like, so there's always nice to have a little ability to completely fund something that is within the range.
So commissioners, under normal circumstances, I will bring this item to a later meeting for you to make a decision, but I think it seems to be pretty straightforward for the board to provide direction.
I'm okay.
Yep.
Um,
Let's fund these two projects.
Okay, I will circulate award letters for your signature packet. So thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you, Andy. That was
Thank
easy.
All right. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Thanks, Josh. We have a gift of time here with this meeting. Is that all we needed to cover, Mayor Romero?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, 2:22 p.m. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Be ready tomorrow.